I wanted Max Crosby. I know Danny and Nick and all the little analytics gurus out there thought, oh, you gave up 2 firsts. That's too much. But I will say I would rather have had this have worked out the original way.
Okay.
Where they gave up the 2 first-round picks. Okay. They got Max Crosby because he is one of the few guys in the game that wrecks it. And he does. And that's what they need. And I also thought, well, let me say this, too. He wasn't just this great pass rusher, or isn't just. He is also a great guy against the run. And that's unusual for a lot of the great edge rushers. He's one of the few that's great in both ways. And I also just thought, and I said this, he embodied what Ravens are about, right? Like his personality, his tough guy image, the rebel, like all that I thought was perfect for the Ravens. So I was distraught when it happened or didn't happen. But I thought Trey Hendrickson and keeping the draft picks was a great consolation prize. Trey actually has, now I don't think he's as good as Crosby, but he does have more sacks than Crosby. Not only in the last 4 years, I think he's got two more of the last 4 years, and that's only playing 7 games last year. But he's got like 14 more over the last 6 years. So he is a sack machine. He's not as good, as versatile with the run and all that stuff, but he's a great consolation prize. You get to keep the draft picks. Maybe they get an offensive lineman. We know they need some interior offensive linemen, maybe somebody else on the defensive line, whatever. But again, I would have preferred Mad Max, but I can live with this. I think they're still contenders.
Fair.
Okay, yeah, listen, I have been kept in the dark all day, intentionally. I was like, is Brou going to be sad? Is he going to be devastated, happy? And I feel like you've come out somewhere like a reasonable middle of you preferred Crosby, good consolation prize. And they're 4th and 5th in pressures over the last 4 years. In terms of pure pass rushers, they are similar. Crosby's a better player.
Yes.
Right? Like, we put this together just to show it. Like, they are very similar pass rushers, but to your point, Crosby plays all 3 downs. He's much better against the run. Yeah. He's a couple of years younger than Hendrickson. Crosby's a better player.
Yeah.
But I told you on Monday that I thought it was too much to give up for a 29-year-old coming off of knee surgery. And so the fact that you can get a very comparable pass rusher, and whatever the difference is between Hendrickson and Crosby, one of the best drafting teams in the NFL, your Baltimore Ravens, should be able to make up that difference with the 14th pick in this draft.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt this is better for the Ravens. Like I think without a doubt Max Crosby is better, and I do think he fits the culture and what he would be able to bring. And the whole price point of the Ravens giving too much I think is a moot point, because you really are kind of pushing all the chips to the table right now, and you are trying to maximize your team immediately right now. Go for broke. Let's do it. And so I have no problem with that whatsoever. This is what the Rams consistently do, and it's worked quite well for them as well. But if you can either give 2 firsts and trade for Max Crosby, or keep your first and sign Hendrickson. Yeah, I mean there's a chance that final year or so does not age too well. Maybe even the final 2 years. But it's like that's just money that I rather spend and keep the draft capital. Especially when you're talking about the 14th overall pick I think it's the 14th overall. And so, and you could argue maybe that if you're really great this year, then obviously that the next year's first pick is nowhere near as good. But you know that's a good problem to have. So, if both of these players, if both of these options were presented to you, right, Max Crosby, 2 draft picks, you got them. Or, Trey Hendrickson, you got that. Which path would you go? For me, it's always the latter. I mean, obviously, you got the age offset. 29 years for Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, 32. But if you look at the contract average per year, 28 million max, 35.5 total guaranteed, 915 Hendrickson 60, right? So even from a financial standpoint you're doing pretty well, especially if you're going to get in theory similar statistical production. So, I wouldn't get too hung up on this. Both of these teams, the Bengals and the Raiders, have had very specific seasons since 2021, for sure. So, I think even some of their stats can be, I don't know. It's just especially when you're on defense and your offense can be a mess, or you're dealing with offensive injuries, or your defense is you have no and you're, I don't know, you're in a lot of, you're getting crushed in a lot of games, right? It's just I just think stats in some of these situations can be a bit misleading is all I'll say. So, I wouldn't even get too hung up on just the actual stats themselves. I wouldn't that's not where I would zero in on. But I think it's obvious that you're going to get some great production out of Hendrickson. Whether it's exactly what you could get out of Max Crosby, probably not. And it's not a matter of how you can make up for it with some of your draft picks in terms it's it just gives you more freedom and flexibility. It just gives you more versatility. Heck, they can now, and I'm not saying they're going to do this, but if they want to, they can trade that first-round pick now for something else, even if they wanted another wide receiver. I'm not saying that's what they want, but I'm just saying that it just opens up the door for even more options. I assume they're just going to draft someone, and now the question is, can that player make an immediate impact year one right now? Depends what position they're drafting, and it depends who they're getting, and it's, that will remain to be seen. It's, some players are able to hit the ground running immediately and be elite just in a snap of the fingers, and other times it's it takes a year or so. It takes a year or two, and, sometimes I feel like it's position dependent, and sometimes I feel like it's just individ, sometimes you draft the defensive player and they're able to be elite right off the bat. Sometimes it takes a minute. Same thing with the wide. Sometimes it's wide receiver, wow, they just hit the ground running and it's woo, let's go, and other times it's I'm hopeful next season will be better, right? So trying to predict 100% how quickly a player can come up to speed is, I find a little bit of a roll of the dice outside of maybe running back. It's pretty much listen, if the old line is good enough, if you're going to be a great back, you're going to be a great back immediately, for the most part, and obviously quarterbacks have their own developmental process. But yeah, I think the decision's still the Ravens still have to figure out what what timeline they believe they're on. Do they feel that they have a longer timeline where they're no, listen, we want a Super Bowl. We want to win a Super Bowl. We know the pressure is there to win. We know Lamar Jackson's not going to play for another 30 years, but we're patient. We just hired a new coach. We know this is going to take a second to go full steam ahead. Or do they feel we got to win right now? We got 2-3 years of maximal potential Lamar Jackson, and after that it is an absolute roll of the dice. So we are doing everything we can. We're putting all the chips in the table. We are going again, we've seen the Los Angeles Rams do multiple times really, but even just now most recently, and so it is interesting, it is definitely interesting, and they seemingly were going Allen, and again, mortgaging your future does not mean sacrificing your future, but they were mortgaging their future, they were risking it, they were gambling it, you seemingly, so that was now they obviously didn't make that move, and now they were able to make another move without having to necessarily make that decision. So, in a weird enough way, they still had those 2 first, where if there was another unbelievable player that they feels that they could get and to make the money work, and again, I'm not saying that player's out there or that they should do it, but it's just we can see how immediately Allen there right now. Right now. Technically if there was a player that they said, wow, we can get so and so for 2 first or just 1 F, whatever it is. And it's just okay. So, I'm fascinated to see now with this flexibility that they have, how do they utilize it? Again, I assume they're just going to draft, but I'm just curious, what the draft looks like. And then for me for the most part one typically think that it takes a minute or two to get these players up to speed. The only reason why I even hesitate with that is because really because of 24 seeing Cooper Dean and Mitchell on defense be able to just get after it immediately. That then makes me say I don't know if I can as confidently say that it takes a season or two to get some of these players up to speed. And I'm just so it's something that I'm still trying to figure out where my mind lands with some of that. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Are you happy with how this played out? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So, whether you agree with me or disagree with me either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. And I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.